Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Foley. I'm a senior product manager at AWS, and today we will discuss best practices when using Amazon Personalize. Today, we're going to cover Amazon Personalize, a quick overview of the service. We'll do some use case mapping. We'll demo our data analysis, and we'll talk about sort of next steps for getting started on your own. Amazon Personalize enables developers to quickly build and deploy personalized user experiences at scale. Our service is powered by the same ML technology that is used by Amazon.com, but requires no ML expertise of your own. Amazon Personalize makes it easy to integrate into existing websites, apps, or outbound marketing tools, and is used by 1,600 global customers across numerous different industries to boost engagement and grow revenue. Let me do a quick overview of how Amazon Personalize works. Building a great personalized experience starts with data. Personalize's ML models are powered by three types of data sets. First is interactions data. This is information about how your users interact with items in your catalog. So it can include things like clicks, views, or purchases. Next, we consider items. So this is metadata about the items in your catalog. This can be the category your items fit into, their price, their description. And finally, we include information about users. This can be psychographic or demographic information about users, like their age, location, or the tier of subscription that they belong to. You're able to share this data with Amazon Personalize using S3 or our streaming APIs. Next, you select what type of personalization model you'd like to train. We call these personalized recipes. The combination of your data set and your recipe is what we call a solution. Once you train a solution, you're able to access your recommendations via our streaming APIs or via batch inference jobs. Creating a solution is central to getting started with Amazon Personalize. So today, as we talk about best practices, we're going to map use cases to recipes, and we'll talk about ensuring that your data sets are well prepared to train your solution. As we start to prepare our solution, we want to think about what types of use cases we're going to use Amazon Personalize for. And there's essentially four types of recipes that we're going to cover today that can map to your business's use cases. So first is generating recommendations that are directly targeted to each user. These are commonly used on home pages, so generating carousels of recommendations on a home page. They're used frequently for product recommendations in email marketing campaigns, and they're excellent for showing products to new users and new content to users as well. When you think about these types of recipes, they would be the types of carousels that would say recommended for Dan. Generating these types of user experiences is central to Amazon Personalize. Is a very common use case that our customers start with. And to produce these, you'll use our Amazon Personalize recipes. First is user personalization. This is a custom recipe that allows you a lot of flexibility in how you design and optimize these user experiences. The next two options are what we call domain optimized recommenders. And these are targeted for applications in e-commerce and video on demand. So the first is recommended for you, and the second is top picks. And this is a very easy way for you to generate carousels that do exactly that. So if you're looking for a carousel that's specifically recommended for you, you'll be able to use these domain optimized recommenders. Same with top picks for you. The next common use cases that we see from our customers is when they want to personalize a curated list. So frequently our customers have some content that their editors have curated. They have content that's on sale, and they want to display all of these options to their customers, but they want to make sure that whatever their customer sees first is the content that's most relevant to them. So we see a lot of applications where they're sorting an entire product category. They're taking a playlist and optimizing what order that playlist is played in for a specific user. They're also using it to re-rank search results. So when you do a search query and you have a set of results, you can apply Amazon Personalize on top of that so that the results are ordered in a way that's tailored to an individual user. And for that, we have one very specific recipe that we call personalized ranking. Generating these types of applications with Amazon Personalize is easy. We have a handful of different options to generate this type of application. So first is our custom recipe known as similar items, but we also have some domain optimized recommenders as well. First ones are tailored towards e-commerce applications again. So this is customers who viewed X, also viewed, and then frequently bought together. So again, these are generating carousels that do exactly as described there. One is powered by the view event. So customers who also viewed is powered by view interactions. And frequently bought together is powered by purchase interactions. The next is video on demand applications, so video on demand optimized recommenders. And there's two options there: because you watched X and more like Y. So the first one looks at the watch event, and the second one is looking at interactions associated with a given piece of content. So finally, to wrap this up, we look at user segmentation. This is commonly used when our customers are looking to target messaging to the users that are going to be most interested in a particular item or a particular category. So really commonly used when you want to identify which users you're going to send outbound marketing campaigns to. It's excellent for highlighting sales and promotions to the individual users who are most likely to participate in that and actually purchase what's on sale. And it's great for acquiring users for new products or new categories. There's two recipes that we offer for this type of segmentation. The first is item affinity. So given a particular item, what users will be most interested in it. The second is item attribute affinity. And this is when you take an attribute about the item, so say the category or the genre, and use that to generate a list of users that will be most interested in that recipe. That wraps up our use case mapping. Once we have our use cases, we're going to want to bring data to Personalize. And data preparation is a really important step in the process that we've made it as easy as possible to perform. Just like any ML model, data quality is really important to Personalize. And so Personalize has made it as easy as possible to understand the qualities of your data and identify any needs for troubleshooting to see if there's any gaps in the data before going through the process of training your models. I'm going to jump to a demo of our product. Okay, so what I've done here is I've jumped into the Amazon Personalize console. And what you'll see is I'm doing a little bit of a cooking show demo, and I've brought 3 data sets to the service already. So I have our items data set, our users data set, and our interactions data set. What you'll see very shortly is that these data sets were specifically designed to be bad. So we know that these data sets are inadequate. They're not going to train a good model. And what we'll look at is how we can identify that within Amazon Personalize. From here, I'm going to navigate over to our data analysis. Let me orient you to what we're looking at first. When you jump into data analysis, you'll have the option to run an analysis. Once that's performed, you'll get a set of insights. These are rules-driven insights based on statistics that we're looking for in your data. So we see and have helped customers clean up a lot of different data challenges. And so what we've done is we've tried to mechanize that and make it easy for you to do it on your own without requiring any sort of support to sort out what actions you need to take to improve your data. If we go below the insights, we'll see statistics about our data sets. So our items data set will first see some overall statistics on the data set, and we can also go into column level statistics as well. So I can look at, say, item ID, and I can see information about the completeness, the number of unique values, what type of data set or what type of data column it is. So we can see that it's a string. And what we're going to do here is we really want to make sure that these statistics align with what we expect. So if there's anything that doesn't look right, if 10,000 seems like a really wrong number for the number of items in your data set, that's going to be something that we want to identify. Same with the overall statistics. So we see that there's 10,000 rows and 10,000 unique items. If we're looking at an items data set and say we had 10,000 rows and only 10 unique items, there would be something that would be alarming, that, there's something amiss here. I'm going to dig into the interactions data set as well. Here we can see information about the number of rows, the number of unique users, the number of unique items, and the number of unique events. And there's some interesting statistics in here that we're going to start seeing driven from the insights. So the first thing that we're going to see is some warnings about the completeness of our data. And particularly, we see that the column called description has a lot of sparsity. So if we go back to these column statistics for the items data set, we can see here too, description is only 1% complete. And so what we know is that the description is used by Amazon Personalize. We have an NLP model that will look at the description and inform our model based on the content in that description. But the fact that it's very sparse means that it likely won't have a strong weight on the model itself. So we want to check to make sure that there's no leakage of data. There's no reason that our description column is so sparse. The next thing that we're going to see here is a couple insights that are telling us that we're not meeting the minimum requirements for Personalize. So the first thing is that our interactions data set only has 1,000 interactions. The next thing that we're going to see on our list here is that there's not sufficient data to actually train a model in Amazon Personalize. And the first thing that we see is that the interactions data set doesn't contain enough interactions. So Amazon Personalize requires a minimum of 1,000 interactions. And in our case, we only have 885. So there are a couple ways that we can remedy this. One way is to import more historic data. So if you've uploaded your data in bulk and only uploaded us some more recent data, we can look at a longer history and capture more data points. Another thing is we can look for different sources of data, or we can expand the locations where we're tracking users in the interactions data. So a couple options to remedy this, but we're going to identify early on in the cycle that we need to bring more interactions data to train a sufficient model. The next thing that we see here is that our interactions data set only has one unique user with more than 2 interactions. So if we go back to our interactions data set, we can see that while we have 27 unique users, not all of those unique users have multiple interactions. We want to see a string of interactions for each user. That's what informs the model and tells our model how our users behave. And so in this case, we want to see at least 25 users that have more than 2 interactions. And again, we can think about the same remediation approaches to gathering more data here. So we can look at more historical data, or we can look for other sources of data as well. If I go to the second page, my insights, I start with 2 here, and these 2 cover the overlap between our 3 data sets. So if we remember, our interactions data set is information about how our users interact with items. And what these 2 insights are telling me is that the interactions don't have strong coverage of the items and the users in those respective data sets. What this is telling me is that 99% of the items in the items data set have no interactions in our interactions data set. So this is something we see pretty commonly. A lot of times it's a mismatching ID. So in some cases, our customer will have an ID that's used in the items data set that doesn't align with what's in the interactions data set. And with something that's this high of a percentage, that's frequently the case. So we want to go back and make sure that there's not any data missing from our interactions data set, and there's no sort of mismatching or typos that are causing this problem. And what we see here in the second one is that 64% of our users in our users data set have no interactions in the interactions data set. So what Personalize will do in these cases is those users will receive recommendations for popular items. And as they begin interacting with items, we'll sort of understand their pattern of interactions and respond with recommendations as a result of those new interactions. But before we do that, we want to make sure that there's no data missing again, that there's no mismatching of IDs between the 2 data sets. Because we want to make sure that as many of those users have interactions history as possible to generate a highly performant model. Let me skip over a couple of these. One of the interesting ones that we have in here is outliers. So in this case, we have a column called event value that has outliers. Outliers can be a big issue. They can also not be an issue. And so we want to go and check to make sure that this isn't an issue. And so I'm going to go look for event value in our interactions data set. In this case, I'm going to go to our column level statistics, look at event value, and what I can see is the min and the max. So if we see that the min here is negative 56, that's likely something that we wouldn't want to see. If we expect the minimum to be 0, or if we expect a certain maximum, we want to make sure that these are in the realm of possibilities. It is okay to have outliers. Frequently, customers bring data that has outliers, and they'll use that specifically for filtering. So it may not have an exact normal profile. But it's something to be aware of and something that you can easily check within the Amazon Personalize console. Let me jump back to our presentation. So as you can see, the data analysis is an important step in ensuring that Personalize is using the data that you expect to be sending to it. And it's also important to understand how your data will impact the performance of Personalize's models. We just demoed this feature to one of our customers, Avio. Avio is a software company that uses Personalize to generate product recommendations for Shopify storefronts. And during the demo, in a matter of minutes, they were able to identify and troubleshoot a column of data that was unexpectedly sparse. This is something that can go unnoticed if you skip the data analysis step, and may have impacts to the quality of your recommendations going forward. So definitely something that you don't want to skip, and something that you want to optimize to make sure that your data is as performant as possible. That wraps up our overview of best practices in mapping your business use cases to Amazon Personalize's recipes, and our coverage of best practices getting started with data preparation. We encourage you to come try Personalize. We have an option here on the left that is get started for free. You can try Amazon Personalize with our free tier for the first 2 months. And we have some additional resources on the right here with some additional information, more details on getting your data prepared and getting ready to use Amazon Personalize. Thank you, everyone, for the attention and your time today. Have a good day.